Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story, we welcome back a good friend of the show, Born Beach, from over on Reddit, No Sleep. And as always, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid Crew. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story. And title. I inherited a lighthouse in the woods, but I'm not sure I'll make it there alive. Part 3. Let's get straight into that. The wood was a blanket of darkness. Tall trees reached into the sky, their branches still in the narrow shafts of moonlight. I navigated with my lantern, alone. In it, I burned letters. I'd hoped I'd brought enough, but even now, a half hour into the journey, I felt my bag emptying faster than expected. Not good. A sound up ahead, just beyond the brush, running water. I fumbled forward, doing my best to keep my tripping on any errant routes. I parted a clutch of branches, and ahead I saw a winding creek, the same one I'd walked along 10 years previous. If I followed that, then it'd take me back to my family's land and the safeguarding lighthouse that sat upon it. I smiled. My chances of survival just went from 0 to slim, and I considered that a welcome improvement. I grit my teeth, telling myself to ignore its taunts. It wanted to rise out of me. The more emotional I got, the sloppier I became, and the more likely I'd be to drop the lantern. You're well informed for a haunt, I said, doing my best to salvage something from my situation. Something as well connected as you probably knows what killed my old man. More laughter, howling. The Dogman kicked up stones along the creek shore as it bounded around me, and I did my best to shield the lantern from any errant debris. If it knocked it out of my hand, even accidentally, the Dogman would die. That was the law of the land, but I'd still be left without a lantern. That meant other phantoms would have their fill of me before long. Something funny? I asked.
I've just forgotten how long you've been gone. 8 years? 10? You never met him, did you?
I frowned. Who? The Dogman stepped in front of me, its eyes dangerous.
The Stick Man,
it whispered.
He's on his way to Gloomfall now. He'd be killing your sister while we speak, doing all sorts of things to her.
I searched his eyes, but I saw no hint of laughter behind them, no hint of a lie. He was telling the truth. Damn it! I bolted. My feet pounded over the stones of the dark shore. I rushed down the edge of the creek, wondering how long until I'd make it back onto our land, back to my sister. Too long, I thought hopelessly. She's as good as dead. Images played in my mind, images of a shadow with cinderlight eyes crouched over Harriet, its long limbs playing over her corpse. I'd seen it in my dream, an omen. Faster! I've got to pick up the pace. I doubled my efforts, my lungs scorching like a furnace. The Dogman ran casually at my side, his powerful legs kicking back stones as his teeth snapped near my ear.
About time for another letter, don't you think? That one's almost out.
What? I glanced down. The letter was still fresh. My world span and I tumbled, slipping on a wet stone. Stupid! I rolled into a shower of pebbles and came to a groaning stop, hating myself for being so gullible. I blinked, unable to see anything. The light. What happened to my light? My hand shot out. I searched desperately for my lantern. With the dark, I was suffocating. I couldn't see my fingers in front of my face.
Looking for this,
said the Dogman. I turned towards its voice. Please!
Here you go.
Something whistled through the air. I reached for it, fumbled it, and it crashed to the ground next to me. No! I gasped. I spread my hands across the stone shore, feeling for the lantern, and broken glass met my fingertips.
"Uh-oh,"
said the Dogman, but its voice had lost its teasing playfulness. It sounded hungry, vicious.
"Looks like you've lost your safe passage."
I grabbed the lantern. Broken or not, I could still use it so long as it protected the flame from the wind. I dug into my bag frantically, fishing out a letter, but before I could light it, a rough paw gripped my throat. I wheezed. It lifted me into the air, coughing and sputtering. My legs kicked out. They spasmed under me as I tried to beg for my life.
"Told you I'd have you between my teeth,"
the Dogman snarled. It snapped its jaws near my ear.
"Question is, which end do I start with? Maybe the feet. Sometimes I like to listen to the screams for a bit."
My mind reeled. I punched and clawed at the creature, but it was too big, too powerful. Please, I gagged. Let.
"Don't beg,"
the monster said.
"Desperation tastes pathetic."
I fell. I fell to the stones, gasping for air. The Dogman had dropped me. Why? A yelp then sounded in the dark. My heart pounded. Letters. I needed to burn another letter. I reached for my bag. Another yelp. Was the Dogman in pain? Being attacked? I couldn't worry about that. Right now, all that mattered was securing safe passage. I brought my lighter to the edge of the letter, and the paper curled, hissing and crackling with the sound of salvation. Good. I breathed a sigh of relief, placing it into the lantern housing and pinching it beneath the stone. That should buy me a few minutes. And a new sound from my right. Slick, wet. It was like flesh being torn into, carved up, and it was followed by a low canine whimper, and I swallowed. The Dogman wasn't a particularly powerful entity. It was considered a nameless haunt, a wandering phantom of the wood that did the bidding of other, more terrifying creatures. But as nameless haunts went, Dogmen were fierce beasts, and anything that could threaten a creature like that was wisely feared. Hello? I said uneasily to the dark. My lantern flickered, revealing a scene upon the rocky shore. Blood. It trickled over the stones, flowing past my boots and down into the babbling creek. I inched closer. The body lay on the ground. The Dogman's. It wheezed, heaving weak breaths as something carved into its neck, working its way back and forth across the thick muscle with practice efficiency. "You are rusty," said a voice, cold and haunting. It belonged to a man. He stopped carving the creature's head, lifting the blade onto his broad shoulders, where it gleamed serrated silver. I raised my lantern. My feet stumbled backwards, my mouth moving wordlessly. The man was tall, far taller than I remembered. His hair fell around his neck in a black mane, and his lips spread into a midnight smile. "Ah, at long last," he said, "the prodigal son returns, and with him brings the end of all things." "You?" I breathed. It was all I could do. It was all I could think to say. No words could express the hurricane of emotions, of rage, pain, and hatred I felt in that moment. I hadn't looked into those eyes since I had watched them kill my mother 30 years ago. "What's the matter?" asked the man. "Don't you want to give your big brother a hug?" I inherited a lighthouse in the woods. There are things worse than monsters in these trees. Part 4. Let's get straight into that. "You!" I spat, body vibrating with rage. I lunged at Wesley, lunged at the bastard that took my mother from me, took our mother from us. He sidestepped me, slapping my back with the flat of his machete. "Easy does it, little brother," he said, sneering. "You haven't got time to be wasting on me, do you?" He nodded towards my lantern and the flickering flame inside. I swallowed. The letter was almost out. I reached into my bag to grab another, but felt only a handful left. When? How?
When you fell,
Wesley said, as if reading my mind.
Letters spilled out everywhere.
Most washed downstream. My heart sank. But then, almost as soon as it came, my disappointment was replaced with fury. Then, I'm dead anyway. Might as well take you with me. He lifted a machete, the silver of the blade glinting at my throat.
I wouldn't,
he said flatly.
I don't want to hurt you, Jasper. And I mean that.
And I grit my teeth.
You fucking killed her. You killed her and you ate her heart. You twisted, monstrous piece of shit. I told you then, and I'll tell you now. It was necessary. For you and for Harriet. For all of Gloomfall.
He lowered his machete.
I'm not buying it,
I spat.
What reason could possibly justify that? You tore our family apart. You killed Mom. It's not that simple. There are things you don't understand about.
Crows launched themselves from nearby trees, their calls echoing into the black ether. Something rumbled in the distance. Something heavy, powerful. Wesley's face fell into a frown.
Why did you have to say that word? You need to leave, Jasper. Now! Run, and keep running along the coast. Don't stop.
How? I don't have enough letters, I said, gazing towards the now rising sound of approaching thunder. Whatever was out there was closing in.
Forget the letters,
snapped Wesley. He jabbed his machete towards the water, towards the lighthouse, towards home.
Follow the river. I'll buy you what time I can.
Questions passed my mind. Questions like how and why. But instead, I nodded lamely. I might have hated Wesley. I might have wanted to kill him, slowly, someday myself. But the fact remained that my sister was in danger. She was the entire reason I'd come here. Harriet.
I don't think this is finished,
I growled, backing away.
I swear, I'll be back for you, Wesley.
I'll do what Father should have done 30 years ago. Wesley sighed, paying me a final, mournful look.
I know.
He darted off, dashed across the pebble beach, moving at almost inhuman speed towards the approaching rumbling. And I made for the creek. I moved with more confidence now. I don't know if it was the fact I was overflowing with adrenaline, or if it was the fact that I had so few letters that I couldn't afford to make another misstep. I don't know. All I know is I clambered across the rocky shoreline like I was born for it. 1 step. 2. I lunged, scattering pebbles at my feet, tore ahead. It was hard work. I had to keep my broken lantern covered with my hand, and the heat from the letters was burning my palm. But I knew the alternative was much worse. Getting caught out here without safe passage meant the horns would have their way with me, and I'd seen plenty of what they like to do to their prey. And I kept moving, breath coming in exhausted heaves, and somewhere behind me I heard the rumbling stop. I listened as the coming thunderclap evaporated, then ignited into an eruption. A roar met my ears, something deafening, enough to rattle the bones beneath my skin as I wondered, in silent awe, if Wesley was really confronting that thing. Why though? A question for later. Ahead of me rose a new challenge, an almost sheer ridge. I set my jaw. My options were to try and walk around it and lose time, burning through my few remaining letters, or attempt to climb it. Doing that with the lantern in hand would be a difficult task, maybe an impossible one. Another roar. The creek rippled, the water shuddering from the force of whatever strange beast approached at a distance. Damn it! I didn't have the luxury of considering my options. I had to make a choice. The wall. It was the fastest way, assuming that I could manage it. I lit a fresh letter, then put the handle of my lantern in my teeth and got to climbing. It wasn't a particularly tall ridge, but it was steep. I'd need both hands for this. I gripped the rocky outcroppings, struggling to find purchase in the darkness, and slowly I inched my way up. At halfway up the face, my teeth began to ache with the weight of the lantern. It banged against the front of the rock wall, the letter inside flickering desperately as it tried to hold its flame. My heart fluttered. Come on, just a little further. I made it. I was up. I set the lantern down on the ledge and then pulled myself over. I took a brief moment to catch my breath, then lifted my light and carried on. This new area was familiar. Even in the dim glow, I recognized aspects of my surroundings, like an old elm tree or that overgrown fence running along the shoreline. I'd been here before, many times in the past. But where was it, though? The beast roared again. This time the force was cataclysmic. Trees lurched. They bent forward, hidden beneath the might of the resultant shockwave. A blast of wind tore past me. Twigs and stones whipped about in the hurricane current, cutting into my arms, my face. And I shut my eyes, grimacing in the face of gale. And then it dissipated. The wind faded, and once I heard the pebbles begin to scatter back to the ground, I opened my eyes. Darkness. I'd lost my light. No! I hissed. The force of the monster's roar had blown the letter away. I reached into my bag for another, desperately bringing my lighter to it, but something lunged at me from the direction of the overgrown fence. I fell, wrestling as it clawed at me, its skin peeling with every swipe. It smelled of rot, decay. Hungry, it groaned. So hungry. I grunted, trying to kick it off of me, but like all haunts, its strength far outstripped its size. Jagged teeth tore into my shoulder. I cried out. The creature began chewing, ripping, and on instinct I grabbed the first thing I could, a stone from the shore. I bashed the monster across the head with it, and it rolled off of me. I gasped, feeling warm blood leaking through my shirt. Not good. I reached into my bag for another letter to burn, but my bag wasn't there. It had slipped off my shoulder when I fell. I dropped to my knees, feeling around the stones hastily. Where was it? I couldn't see a damn thing. More movements came from the trees, slow, shambling, and from it came voices, a legion of them, rasping. Hungry. Judging from the necrotic ache in my shoulder, I could guess these things were probably cold risen. A sort of resurrected dead. In this number, that meant I had to be close to the graveyard. That meant I had to be close to home. I bolted. I abandoned the lantern, abandoned the bag of letters, and navigated using the sound of the creek alone. Trees shifted in the phantom wood beside me. Branches snapped. More haunts would be recognizing a traveler without safe passage. They'd be closing in, and they'd be doing it much faster than the cold risen could. Damn! Screeching, howling, groaning, cackling. All of it met my ears, a cacophony of nightmares converging on me in the dark. Footsteps, paws, an army of haunts bounded behind me, closing in. Faster! My lungs burned. My heart felt like it had exploded from the effort. But I knew I couldn't let up even for a second. I was probably already dead as it was. At least I'll make you work for it, I grunted. I rounded a bend and then I saw it, up ahead in the distance, a sweeping, ethereal glow, gloom-full lighthouse. Harriet! I shouted, tearing up the bank. Harriet, give me a hand, would you? I didn't even know if she was still alive. The cottage lights were dark. The land seemed silent, almost forgotten. I kept running, even as I heard the hiss and whispering of a dozen creatures gaining on me. Almost there. And something sharp caught my shoulder. A claw. I fell, rolling violently into the creek with a frigid splash.
The next moment I got a whiff of rancid breath, rough skin. 100 hands seemed to reach at me, desperate for their pound of flesh. "Harriet!" Light. It exploded across me. The desperate hands pulled back, retreating to an anguished chorus of screams and whimpers. I lifted an arm, shielding my eyes as I stumbled to my feet. Jasper? It was Harriet's voice, distant. It sounded like she was shouting from atop the lighthouse, and I figured she probably was. The only thing capable of getting those haunts off of me was the full glare of Gloomfall's glow. "Is that you down there?" she called. I gave a thumbs up in her direction, smiling. "Sure is. Good to hear your voice again, Harry." She was quiet. Harriet seemed cold in that moment, almost disappointed to see me. She'd begged me to return, though. So why? "There's somebody here you should meet," she said. "Who?" A half beat of silence, and then another voice. This one soft, hazy, almost inaudible against the electric hum of the lighthouse's artificial sun. "Me," it said. "They call me the Stickman, and I think you and I need to talk." The Stickman? That was the entity the Dogman had mentioned. The being, it said, had likely killed my father and was going to kill Harriet. "You!" I shouted, splashing towards the lighthouse wildly. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here for the same reason you are," it said. "I'm here to kill your sister."
Wow. Wow. Certainly another one. Wow. What an intriguing, chest-pounding, and superbly written story there from our good friend Born Beach from over on Reddit, No Sleep. Once again, a big thank you, Born, for allowing me to narrate your work on the show. Each and every time is such a thrilling read, with intriguing characters and spine-tingling action. Guys and girls, I'll leave a link in the description box below, at which you can grab Born Beach's brand new book featuring some of his most popular stories, the perfect present for any horror fan. Of course, Born, I hope you enjoyed this rendition and really do look forward to any updates in this incredible series in the future. Well, guys and girls, as ever, you know the drill. Please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid Crew. Now, if you can pen a story packing that much punch, then please do get in touch with me at the contact email, which is, as on screen, contactthedeadone@gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing from you. I hope you're all fighting fit and are looking forward to the Christmas time celebrations with friends and family. Whatever it is that you do, I hope you're surrounded with loved ones and friends and eating plenty of food and necking back a good few drinks. Big thank you for your constant support, guys, your kind words, your likes and shares. But above all, remember, be safe, not sorry.